Hello, today is day 61. We're reading from Numbers chapter 16 through 17. Here they are again, the Israelites moaning and groaning, belly aching, and just complaining. They are singing the desert blues as they focus upon all of their miseries. A rebellion rises up against Moses out of all of this. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram all come and they challenge Moses, and they bring with them 250 men, and they challenge Moses as his calling, his authority, his office. They refute his office. They basically resented his office and were jealous of the high calling that he had in his life. And they say, listen, all the congregation is holy. You're not the only one that is holy. And then they made this statement, God is among all of us. In other words, they were saying, we're basically equal with you. You're nothing special. And so they minimized this rich calling, the authority that God had established in Moses. Moses is a very humble man. That's not just because we can sense it as we read it, but that God himself says Moses is humble, and he's drawn to that. And Moses, he falls on his face in the midst of this rebellion. He says, listen, tomorrow the Lord's going to show you. Get a censer and put fire in it. We'll put it to a test. We'll see who's on the Lord's side. And you take too much in yourself, Moses says to these people, Korah and the sons of Levi. You're taking too much for yourselves. And so Moses confronts their attitudes. They minimize their callings as if they say, we want what Moses has, and we're jealous. A spirit of jealousy got a hold of them, and they diminished their own office and significant callings God, because everything that God calls us to is important. It's valuable, and all of us contribute together to the work of God. So they accuse him of being Moses accuses them of entitlement, of basically being ungrateful. Entitlement means all the things that they've received and been blessed and experienced. Now they're taking it for granted. They basically feel like they deserve more. It's not enough. And boy, this is a dangerous spirit, isn't it? And get a hold of all of us. So Moses warns them that they're not fighting against him. They're fighting against God. These men accuse Moses of acting like a prince, appointing himself, when in reality God did. It's the same thing they accused him even before God called him back in Egypt and said, who made you a judge or a ruler over us? Bitterness developed in the people of God, that they had been brought out of Egypt. In fact, they revert back to romanticizing their past, suggesting and using God's language, saying, listen, when we were in Egypt, the land that flowed with milk and honey. So they were basically saying that that was the fantasizing that was a wonderful place, and that Moses had brought them out of this despicable land and had forsaken them. Once again, Moses is humble. He actually appeals to God on their behalf. Two men refuse to even show up, and they head over to their tents. They basically are saying to Moses, you're not our boss, and we're not going to listen to what you tell us to do. Moses basically says, we're about to see who God has called. If you guys die by natural causes, then I'm wrong. But if God opens the pit, a hole in the earth, and swallows you up, then I'm right. But I'll admit it. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. So God consumes the 250 who unlawfully offered the incense. Korah leads in this rebellion. So see the danger of one man, the power of influence, and why you and I must always test the Spirit. They gather the entire congregation at the tabernacle. The glory of God appears, and Moses appeals to God in desperation because he realizes God's about to wipe out the entire Israelite congregation. And says, should the whole congregation die for the sake of one man? So Moses warns the people to get away from these wicked people. Even as we read it in the New Testament, come out from among them and be separate. The ground splits open. Fire consumes 250 men and Korah, and they ultimately rejected God, and they paid the price. Amazingly, though, after all of this, on the next day, Israel starts complaining again. And God has basically had it, and his intent is he's going to destroy every one of them and wipe them out. But here comes humble Moses, the great intercessor. He stands in the gap. He appeals to God. He intercedes. And guess what? God relents again. And he listens to his man, the man he speaks to face as a friend to a friend. He confirms the call in Aaron's life by taking the rod, and the rod buds and blossoms in fruit, demonstrating that God has planted the office of authority in Moses and in Aaron. All of us have circumstances in life where we feel like are unfair, and unjust. But remember something, we are on the Lord's side. We are winners through Jesus Christ, and we must always be grateful and thankful and honor God in every area of our lives.